The Vienna Gambit is flashy, aggressive, and dangerous, but if white overextends, you can punish them hard. In this video, I'll show you how to play one of the sharpest counterattacks as black, ending in a crushing position where white is completely helpless. They start with pawn to e4, and we reply with pawn to e5. This is standard stuff. Then white plays knight to c3, entering Vienna territory. We match with knight to c6. Now white launches the gambit pawn to f4, aiming for fast kingside pressure. We accept the gambit and take the pawn. White develops their knight, preparing to regain the pawn. Now comes a key move, pawn to g5, grabbing space and defending our extra material. Next, white pushes g3, trying to break open our pawn wall. We don't let that happen, we go all in with pawn to g4. Their knight gets kicked back to h4, and now we strike with f3, locking up their kingside completely. They try to fight back with pawn to d4, but we push d5, fighting for central space. White takes in the center with their knight. We calmly develop with bishop to e6, putting pressure on their structure. Then they bring out their queenside pawn to c4, preparing long-term play. We respond with queen to d7, simple development and preparing to castle long. White plays bishop to f4, but we don't care. We castle queenside and we're ready to fight. Now they swing the queen to a4, trying to poke holes. We respond with bishop to h6, looking to exchange pieces and defend cleanly. White castles long. We trade dark-squared bishops, take on f4, and white recaptures with the pawn. Now we push pawn to f5, gaining more space and fixing their structure. They drop the knight back to c3. We bring out the queen to e7, lining up a powerful threat. Now they push pawn to d5, trying to open the position. We call the bluff and grab the knight on h4 with our queen. White develops with bishop to d3. We develop our knight to e7, preparing a massive shift. White takes the knight on c6. We strike back with knight to c6, getting closer to our goal. They take on f5 with the pawn. We play rook takes on d3. Our rook is now deep in enemy territory, ready to support the attack. Then they take on e6 with pawn. We calmly lift the rook to e3. This piece is a monster now. They swing their queen to c2, trying to coordinate. We simply play queen to h6, lining up a brutal threat. Then they bring the knight to d5. But we ignore it, rook takes e6, and now they're completely lost. Most Vienna Gambit players go for early aggression, especially pushing d4. But if you know this line as black, you can dismantle their king's safety and flip the attack completely. But we don't give them time, we push g4, immediately hitting the knight. They jump forward with knight to e5 looking active, but now we go for it, queen check with queen to h4. The king is forced to move, king to a2, not ideal. Now we strike with knight takes e5, opening up the center. They take back, but we calmly develop the bishop to c5. Now the king is stuck in the center. White tries to keep their kingside safe by queen to e1, aiming to trade. But we launch f3 with tempo, this is where it gets brutal. White captures the pawn with g-pawn, thinking it solves the problem. But we ignore it, we take back with check. The king has to flee to d1, and we keep going pawn to f2, this pawn is now unstoppable. Now they move their queen to i2. We develop with pawn to d6, clean, safe, and preparing bishop development. They play h3 to prevent queen to h3 later. We ignore that, bishop to e6, building up our threats calmly. Then they develop the dark-squared bishop to e3. We move our queen to j3. Now they jump the knight to d5, looking for counterplay. We don't care, we castle queenside, putting the rook on the d-file and bringing every piece to the party. Then they finally trade bishops, bishop takes on c5. We recapture with the pawn and look at the results. White has a king on d1, scattered pieces, and no safe haven. Meanwhile, our king is castled, we're up material, and we're one move away from crashing through with decisive force. This is one of the dirtiest ways to destroy Vienna Gambit players who try the bishop c4 setup. They think they're playing for a quick attack and get mated on move 20. Let's break it down, we hit back instantly, pawn to g4, chasing the knight. White castles short, this is the most common move in online chess, we don't stop. We play pawn takes f3. They recapture with the queens. Now we hit them with queen to h4, threatening a deadly attack. White pushes pawn to d4, trying to distract us. But we grab a free pawn, knight takes d4, no mercy. They try to challenge with queen to d3, trying to bring pieces over. We calmly develop our dark squared bishop to c5 and look, our pieces are lining up for the kill. Now they push the king to h1, thinking they've dodged the threats. We bring the heat pawn to f3, this pawn is a thorn in their throat. They play g3 to stop it, we jump in queen to h3, now we're threatening checkmate. They panic and play rook takes f3, sacking the exchange. We jump in knight takes f3, queen captures back but now they're down in material and their king is wide open. We strike with pawn to d5, opening the center. They capture, we go bishop to g5, developing with threats incoming. They fork rook and king with knights. We slide king to d7, no big deal. Queen captures on f7 with check. But now we're done playing nice. We play knight to e7, blocking the queen. They take the rook with knights, but we don't need material anymore. Queen to h5, it's mate in a few. They play bishop to b5, giving a check. We step over king to c8, then they finally grab the queen with their queen. We recapture with bishop. They try to develop and open lines for the rook. And now the final move, bishop to f3, checkmate. You just watched Vienna players get destroyed by their own opening. This line looks wild, but after a few tactical blows we end up completely winning, a full piece ahead. Let's go through this Vienna trap step by step, and see why the h4 push is a huge mistake. We don't flinch, we push g4, kicking their knight. They jump to g5, threatening trouble, but we respond with pawn to h6. Now they jump in with knight takes f7, sacrificing a piece for a king attack. We take it, king captures f7, looks scary but we're fine. Now they bring the light-squared bishop to c4 with check. We block with pawn to d5, sacrificing a pawn. They take our pawn with bishop, bishop takes d5 check. We calmly go king to g7, walking out of danger. Now they push pawn to d4, trying to break open the center. We play bishop d6, holding the center together. They keep pushing pawn to e5, attacking our bishop. We slide back bishop to b4, pinning the knight and keeping control. Now they take with bishop, bishop takes on c6. We recapture, pawn takes c6. Then they bring in their dark-squared bishop, bishop takes f4, trying to stay active. We play bishop to e6 and they castle short. We play bishop takes on c3, they recapture with pawn. We bring our queen out, queen to h4, attacking and coordinating with our pieces. They try queen to d3, adding pressure and eyeing the kingside. We jump knight to e7, covering key squares. They go bishop to g3, attacking our queen, and we drop to g5. They bring the rook to f6, getting ready for counterattack. We play bishop to f5. They play queen to c4, trying to go after our kingside, and we slide our rook to f8. They play rook to f1, lining up the rooks. We grab their rook on f6 and they recapture with check. King takes. Then queen slides to c5, we respond with rook to e8. Now the dust has cleared, we're up a full piece, with king safety and all the pressure. And that's the fourth Vienna Gambit variation completely neutralized. If your opponents play h4 early, they'll walk into this trap and leave down a whole piece. Want to master all the dangerous Gambit refutations? Check out the full chess opening guides playlist right now, linked in the description and pinned comment. Don't just survive the opening, dominate it.